Hey everybody, how's it going? Hopefully you guys are having a great Tuesday afternoon. Welcome to Climbing the Ladder, episode 24. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and joining me as always is John Clark from CSN and Mark Faraz of Quanic. What's up, fellas?
Hey,
Not much. How are you?
Good, good. Well, today we would like to welcome our special guest, Genna Bain, from, let's see, Managing Director and CEO of Axiom eSports and the Cynical Brit. Welcome, Genna.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you on today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So I kind of want to just kick off the show and kind of jump right into the big news that was announced last week, which is you guys founding Axiom eSports, a brand new esports team.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously lots of folks have been talking about it, and I've seen you obviously in a few interviews too, but wanted to start off by really starting from the beginning of I guess y'all's you guys getting into the team space, and
Right.
I think it kind of started with you guys sponsoring Bling, the player
Yeah.
game. So why don't we start there, and why don't you talk a little bit about the progression to today, where you guys
Sure.
own a team and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, my husband, of course, being a StarCraft 2 caster, casts events everywhere. America, Europe, not Korea. Probably wouldn't be a good thing. A lot of people would say not a good thing for him to
I
cast
could totally
anywhere.
see him ripping some Korean though. I don't know, just like because he gets so excited already, and they cast so excited, I think it
That
would
kind of hype.
yeah,
That kind of hype would be amazing, right?
I think so.
We should talk more about this. Could be a great idea.
Need a Korean tutor is what he needs.
Exactly.
Exactly right. Yes.
I was
Wanting to do it.
I've been trying to get him to learn more Korean, especially when we were doing sponsorship with Crank, and I just tried to get him to be able to say hello, how are you, or something, anything. And we went through greetings for like a week, and then finally, when he did meet Crank, he's just like, Crank, hi, and then he's like, oh, hi, and then it's just, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I bother? Why did I bother? But as far as Bling goes, again, John has been casting in StarCraft 2 for a while. He had done a couple of UK events for our multiplay, the I-Series, and we had seen Bling play, but I know that he was having some issues being able to go pro. Dignitas obviously has a very big roster of players because they not only do just StarCraft 2, and I honestly don't see how team owners even consider other teams in different games, and more power to them. That's just beyond me. I can't fathom how
Right.
difficult that must be to keep up with not just StarCraft but other games as well, like LoL. But we.
I love the way she pointed that out. Like lol, that was awesome. That was awesome. Not like Dota, not like but like lol, like
No,
those
like
guys
lol.
over there, right?
Well, I'm gonna just say, I guess it's just because it's such a media circus right now. I mean, I think
Sure
that
is. I think
think-
yes.
I think something like Dota would probably be, a bit more lower key and, a bit easier to approach from a professional standpoint. But LoL just is so hyped right now. It's like, how do you make your team stand out when there's so much going on? That for me would just be kind of overwhelming because it's already happening kind of in StarCraft 2 as well. So not as much as Brood War, obviously, because of, the pretty drastic differences in viewership. But just to kind of have that in two games, trying to keep your head level and in two places at the same time, I don't think I have that in me. But yeah, so I guess I'm getting very sidetracked. I am such a bad guest.
That's
No,
what we
it's
do
all
on
right.
this
We get
show. We get
sidetracked all the
sidetracked. We get sidetracked all the time, and it's okay. Actually, I'm all about sidetrack on the show.
Great. Well, but yeah, so Bling was having a bit of trouble going pro, and we saw a lot of potential for him. Obviously, any Protoss player is a little close to my heart because I also play Protoss, or try to. I've been trying to ever since Brood War, and well, I tried in Heart of the Swarm too, and goodness knows that's broken. Well, it was broken. Now we're a little bit better now, but
Well, I could debate with you all day on that one offline, but
we'll get there. We'll get
Yeah.
there. But yeah, so we set up a personal sponsorship just for Bling to be able to kind of bring some more publicity to the Cynical Brit brand for our YouTube media, and that's been working out great for us so far. I mean, we get a nice little patch on his jersey, and he mentions us in interviews, which kind of draws interest. They're like, Cynical Brit, what's that? And I don't really think it at that time when we decided to do this that it was as much advertising to an audience that already knew who we were as it kind of is now. Now I think because of events like MLG and IPL, a lot more people know who the Cynical Brit brand is because John is a more out there caster. His name's kind of circulated in the esports scene a bit, but back then, sure, besides casting a couple events, he was relatively unknown in StarCraft, I think, but that's coming from me, who tries to manage everything that he does, and I look at numbers all day, so I'm like, yeah, no one knows who you are. Sure, like 100,000 people know who you are in this country.
Right.
That's it. No one knows who you are. Now we can't get off the plane in Sweden without people coming up to us. We can't go have dinner in Sweden without people knowing who he is. Like the waiter will know who he is just by his voice. Bellboys at hotels know who we are, and that's just kind of unusual.
Oh, definitely. So when it comes to Bling, I kind of had a question about whether picking Bling specifically, because there are a lot of players that are kind of in the same boat, right? Like they have this struggle between playing eSport or playing SE2 full. All right, let me just restart it. Thank God for the local recording. All right, just restarted it. Hopefully that'll fix it. Oh gosh, yes, we can always blame him. I saw that picture of him. We all know what he looks like now. Is it back? Is it back? All right. Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea. Good old Twitch, or I mean, maybe it's my bandwidth. Who knows? But yeah. So getting back to the question about Bling. Okay. Okay. Great. Wait. Hold on a second. They said they can't hear you. Oh, great. Hold on. All right. All right, hang on. I think I'm gonna have to restart this. Gosh, I don't know what happened here. Actually, this.
I can hear you, Chris.
Yeah, I know you. I know you can. Let's see if that helps at all. Let me see. All right, you guys hear? Let's see. Start talking. See if you guys hear yourselves over the stream. You guys hear them on stream or no?
Yep, I can hear myself. Let's try Gemma.
Good. Gosh, that's
Yeah,
I have
can
no
you hear
idea.
me?
That's weird. Okay.
I hope.
Sorry about that.
I suppose I'll say something. Testing 1, 2.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, good. Okay, back to meeting Bling.
Yeah, so I'm really embarrassed to say that I don't really remember which event I actually met him at, like in person. We'd obviously, kind of talked and communicated before, but so I don't think you can really say it was due to like personal relationship. Um, I mean, a lot of it kind of just had to do with the fact that, we're pretty good friends with Odie. And, he kind of facilitated, this kind of, continuing relationship, I guess. And, also, of course, mentioned to us, how great it would be for, our name to kind of get out there, Cynical Brit wise, to reach out more to the StarCraft 2 community to make them aware that we exist.
Right, right. Oh, so from obviously the sponsoring of Bling, was there any thoughts of adding on, like sponsoring more players and maybe even taking that step to a team?
It's always been a bit of a thought in the back of my mind. Being a gamer for so long, sure, you always think when you see other people doing it and making money off of it, you're like, wow, that'd be so cool to be able to play a game and get paid to do it. How awesome would that be? And of course, then at that time, you're not really fully aware that not only do you have to win in order to really make money, but you have to be pretty consistent at winning to make a career out of it, either or have a really good contract. So I think there are a lot of misconceptions on my part back in the day, but yeah, I mean, I think everyone probably thinks about it at least once, a player or maybe a commentator or, just, random guy who's like, hey, that'd be cool. Start a team, be able to go to these events and, be able to, facilitate that kind of awesome. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been a thought, but I just never thought that it would, come to fruition.
Right, exactly. I mean, I know you guys have a lot of team owner friends and that sort of thing. Had you talked to them?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, exactly. For obviously one being here, but have you, were you guys talking to those folks whenever you did have those kind of thoughts back then?
Not really, because when I first thought about having a team, this is like back during like Counter-Strike 1.6. So, this is just kind of an idea that off and on through all the games that I played, I'm like, would this be viable as a game for a team? Mm-hmm. Would this be viable? And there were just already so many teams. There was already so much interest. It's like, how do you walk in and say, here, I'm going to make a team. Boom. I mean, one, you have to have venture capital, which is not easy to come by, right. Especially, during times like, of course, the recession was not a great time to be thinking about, starting up a team or anything. But, as I continued to go to events, it still became a thought that moved further in my mind at almost every event. Mm-hmm. But again, it was just something that I just kind of toyed with and never really thought, here, let's seriously do it, because I thought, well, where am I going to get that kind of money? There is no mm-hmm. way I'm ever going to have that kind of money. And then there was YouTube, and and then we started working for ourselves, and we set up our own media company, and mm-hmm. I set up my own marketing company. So then there was money, and so when there's money, then there are ideas that, obviously you can start to fulfill some of those dreams that you once had, and this just happens to be one of those dreams that I'm hoping is a success.
Right. No, I hope. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be successful.
Genna, you mentioned that you had thought about putting teams together. Did you ever think, or did you ever do it? Just put a team together just for fun or just to play? Like that one step away from actually kind of making it an official team.
Yeah, I had thought about that, honestly. I was a member of several Battle.net clans back in the day, back when I used to play, Diablo 2 and Brood War and, Warcraft 3. So, I've been in gaming clans before where we would send players to events. And, so I handled a lot of stuff from the admin standpoint on that front. My regular career was being a graphic designer, so I dealt with the website end of it, dealt with some of the sponsor end of it, so I kind of had like a sneak peek, I guess you could say, from a clan perspective of, running a team. It's just a very, very big team. And then, of course, you have to consolidate down and put those star players and, put them out to events. So in a manner of speaking, yes. But again, I think at that point in time, I was way too immature to even, take as many life lessons as I would have liked to from that experience.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, is it accurate to say that the next time, I mean, kind of the next step in this progression was, was the whole Crank, was really picking up or sponsoring Crank for MLG?
It was, but it wasn't my intention at the time. My intention at the time was I was laying in bed with my iPad, just scrolling through, StarCraft Reddit, and I read the story, and I'm like, I know this guy. I watched him play in Brood War. I watched him stream. It's pretty good. Why isn't he already at these events? And, kind of read the backstory as to kind of what happened. And, I don't know, something in my head just said, can we do this? Is there some way that we can help? Because, I thought, okay, well, I'll just do what everybody else on Reddit's doing. And, I'll just click the donate button. But will there actually be enough money to bring a Korean to Raleigh at the last minute
Yep.
and be able to do all the things, and make him feel like he's no less than any of the other Korean players out there? Because I think in some ways when I've seen that done in the past, sure, they've been able to come, but it's always been, they arrive the day of the tournament or right before, and things aren't really facilitated very well. The hotel check-in is always a bit of a mess, finding room for them, translating everything. There was just a whole lot involved. And, I mean, it's not that I don't think that people from StarCraft Reddit were competent to make all these bits and bobs come together, but I just thought to myself, I can't let this not happen. I can't. I mean, he was saying, no, please don't give me your money, but I thought, well, if I offer him kind of like a sponsorship in exchange for advertising on a jersey, then at that point he can't say no, right? I mean, he would look at it as, oh, well, this is just a one event sponsorship and this company is sponsoring me instead of, these individual people pulling money out of their own pockets to contribute charity. So, I sort of twisted my personal want to help him into, this whole sponsorship thing, but, he accepted, and that's kind of what I wanted to happen.
Yeah, and that's really the compelling aspect of that story is that, he does have the backstory. If you guys haven't, checked out the backstory for Crank, you should definitely, try to look for it on Reddit. But, he does, definitely it's kind of a sad story, right? I mean, and that's kind of why I think it was really cool to see you guys sponsor him and help him get to the tournament, because he is a super talented player. And the thing is like, I mean, there's other folks with the same story right now, right, over in Korea.
Exactly.
And
there's a lot of people with the same story in the United States too.
There's a lot exactly.
There are a lot of people with the story all over.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about the whole experience at MLG. I mean, did it work out the way you wanted? Was it more rewarding than you thought it would be?
Well, let's see where to begin. There's just so much to talk about what happened, because, it was just great being able to meet him, to be able to be part of, that experience, to be able to, bring him and say, okay, here you go. Here's your chance. We brought you here. And that's kind of the thing, is that people, they kind of make it up to be, oh, well, this is just a big thing. But, he's the one who played the games. We can't play the games for him. Mm-hmm. All we did was we got him a plane ticket, paid for his hotel, paid for a translator, and, said, here, wear this shirt and go play some games and have some fun. And don't worry about winning. Just, know that you're in this for you. The initial idea was this is a chance for him to show other teams what he's capable of, and perhaps he'll get some offers to join a team. Mm-hmm. And he did really well in the open bracket, and I knew how well he did online. I had not really seen him compete in tournaments too much. I had watched his stream, but as far as like StarCraft 2 is concerned, I kind of felt that was a bit untested. I knew how well he did at IPL, and he qualified for IPL 5. But other than that, we had not seen him at an MLG before. And I don't really know, because I'm not a pro player, how that experience really differs from other lands, either in the EU or North America. But I wasn't really expecting anything. I was just hoping that maybe he'd have a good time and be able to, meet fellow Korean players. And, if he hadn't met everyone already, I'm sure most of those guys tend to know each other pretty well. But, just to be able to bond with those peers and have a good time and enjoy the experience. But I guess he decided that he was going to go beat Tasia twice.
Yeah, just Tasia.
Genna, I think that the attitude that you guys put towards him, about, hey, you're here to enjoy yourself, have a good time, do your best. That may have helped him, especially at an MLG event where if you start in the open, it's grueling. You're playing.
It's so long.
It's long, and it's a lot of matches, and sometimes it's a hurry up and play 3, and then you sit there and wait, and you think you're going to play again. You wait 2 hours. So I think your guys' attitude, the way that you handled it, may have helped kind of just let him focus on just playing and having a good time, and I think that probably goes a long ways. That should probably be done with a lot of players, to be honest with you.
I wish, again, I can only speak to my experiences. I'm not really sure how, many team owners, feel. Mark, maybe your 2 cents? What do you think?
Well, Mark hates his players. He's not.
I think you guys can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where I'm curious to know, like, you came to us with Crank, right? Specifically as an opportunity. I know that you approached a few other teams. Where did the idea kind of evolve from? Okay, we're trying to get Crank on the best team. To, was it because there wasn't a team out there that you felt was going to be good to him, or that you need to start your own, or was it like how did that idea evolve from one to the other? And I guess specifically too, were you not able to find what you were looking for Crank?
Right after MLG, considering his performance, which his finishing, almost beating Hero, beating Taser twice, eventually losing to Hart, he had a really good run. And so, my thought process was, okay, great. He'll be able to find a team with this kind of performance. Teams might be able to look at him and say, oh, I want him for my team. So I knew that he would potentially be getting some offers then. It wasn't until he told me, after coming up to me at MLG, that teams were approaching him when his translator wasn't there and when I wasn't there, because I also do the makeup for the casters, so a lot of times I was kind of having to play 2 roles, doing makeup in the back for all the casters, and being back out there to make sure that he was getting there to his station on time, and if he needed any assistance, that his translator was there. But teams trying to sign him on the floor was
I don't know who's. I can't. I'm not going to ask you to
does that.
share, but I'm not going to ask you to share, but
yeah.
I don't know who goes up on the floor to somebody like, hey man, will you sign this right now? I don't know. It just sounds so unprofessional. But
it's so skeezy. It just I could not believe it. And that was kind of one of those moments that I just don't think I'll ever forget, because I guess maybe I'm just really naive and trusting, and I think that surely no one could do that. But apparently it happens. I don't think it should happen, but
this wasn't
happens.
Was this a big team?
From what I heard, no. But again, Crank didn't even know who I was, or John. Crank didn't know who John was. When we approached him, he thought we were like some company trying to scam him, basically. Right. So I wasn't expecting him to know who every single person was. But as soon as I heard that, I thought to myself, wow, okay, so, I need to reevaluate here and trust no one for a while.
Well, I'll tell you one thing for sure, that, the whole question about, the Korean question, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Those players are, I'd say, very vulnerable, if not for the fact that they are in what I would consider to be an almost damn near sealed system.
Right.
And they just don't leave that system. So I mean, it's kind of one of those things where to have a player on a floor at an event like that doesn't necessarily that doesn't have that protection that they're used to having, that's a very rare scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the fact is likely that he trusted you, so he allowed you to put him in that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But generally, that's why MLG and all these other tournament organizers go through such pains to make sure that they have Juanis and Sues and all these folks around, and there's teammates and there's all this kind of stuff. And all, like I said to you when we talked about Crank, all of our Korean negotiations occur through our Korean business manager.
Right.
So he handles everything, and it's all in Korean, the contracts, the whole nine. So it's kind of like we don't even have a player in a position like that until they're already signed on the team.
Right.
But I completely understand how that would be an alarming situation for you, because that's when you realize how vulnerable these players are in that kind of an environment. You're like, wow, I mean, what are these dudes trying to do over here? Like they're like, oh, free Korean, I don't know.
That's kind of how it felt. Yeah, it was kind of like the Friday after Thanksgiving, and people are out doing their Christmas shopping, and they see an amazing sale that they're just like looking around to make sure no one else is seeing the sale before they go and grab that item before they're trampled. And I never looked at players like that. I just never did.
I think that you're right. I think that there are people in the industry, not necessarily in StarCraft as much as I've seen in some of the console games. Mm-hmm. There's people here who treat players like cattle, purely from an asset perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we look at them as portfolio properties, and we look at them as these words that make them seem like they're not people, but the reality of the situation is that they're people. Every single one of them is a person to us,
Exactly.
and that we're investing not just in them as a player, but them as a person, and that they're on this journey, and that's the real key for us as far as the perspective that we bring upon them is like what their view of this journey looks like.
Right.
And
I'm glad that you have that perspective, because
yeah, because it's like the smallest little things sometimes can make the biggest deal for our players. I mean,
Exactly.
I had a Call of Duty team that won 4 MLG championships last year, and the fuel that powered their mojo was Aquafina and Kit Kat.
Mm.
As long as I had Aquafina and Kit Kat behind them before they went to the next match,
heck yeah.
they were
No.
like,
And he's not sponsored by
Mark, are either
Aquafina
one
or
of
Kit
those
Kat either.
sponsors?
I'm not
No.
sponsored by Aquafina or Kit Kat. No, I'm not.
No,
that's too bad.
No one's sponsored
You
by
should
anything
work on
around
that.
here.
Exactly. No, that's
So,
go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just gonna say it's just really bad form, like approaching players on the floor. I mean, you mentioned like having Sue around too. Like, is a translator enough to really shield these guys? Because
We had one.
I don't think it's just translator. I mean, I think it's that the
Was it
act
Sue?
of approaching players during a tournament on the floor.
Did you guys have Sue?
We didn't have Sue. We had Sophie, and
Okay.
Sue was mostly around, kind of at the same time. But of course, Sue has all the duties up on stage as well. So,
So
it
you
was
had it
it was
right
during a
before.
break.
She was
so
with
I
us
have a
in
question.
Providence. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Do all of you believe that that's the wrong thing to do to approach players, or just that because they're Korean and it's difficult, it appears that maybe it's shady in the sense, or do you really believe that you should just not approach players live at events?
Not during a tournament, in between matches and stuff like that. That's just. I mean,
I think
You don't think so?
it's distracting, man.
It's a really tricky question, John. I think that I think if you want to approach a player who is unsigned at an event, that seems like a reasonable thing to do. But if it's a Korean player, you would certainly want to have a translator with you to be able to interact with that person in a way that was not, that was more native to them and more understandable to them. You have to realize, of course, that they're not in their native environment, that they're in a foreign country.
No, I understand that. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with. I mean, if you see good talent, if you're a team manager and people, you have a respectful team, approaching a player during an event who's unteamed, it's kind of,
what you're
part
supposed
of
to do.
business,
How,
I guess.
Yeah,
how,
right.
how- but how hard is it to do it after they've been eliminated? Versus
Yeah.
But
while
This is
they're
true.
playing.
again, then Chris,
Yeah,
somebody else
it's
may have
just-
already done it before that.
Yeah,
you know,
but
You have,
So-
you have to realize too, though, most of these players that are unsigned at events, like getting approached by a big team, is way more important to them than being eliminated or not being eliminated. Like, from their perspective, they're trying to get to the next level, and the next level is being at that event having it be paid for by somebody else, focusing on their game, focusing on their life balance, focusing on their skills and their team psychology or whatever it is depending on the game. I mean, we've literally had to fly Call of Duty players around just to spend a week together, like doing nothing, not gaming, just like playing around, having fun, so they can build some team chemistry. There's so much that goes into it, and until a player's in a support environment, they're on their own. I can't imagine how many StarCraft players go to these big events and those 245 players that just are there to just try to get noticed.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's the thing. They are there to get noticed, and a lot of the players are there for that specific reason. They're hoping that a team manager or somebody notices them and sees them, and not only be based on their results, but maybe how they're handling whatever fans they may have, and that's really a lot why they're there.
I mean, okay, let's think of this scenario then. Let's think of a guy who's let's just say player X, right? He ends up winning, let's just say the first 7 rounds of MLG, right? And he gets approached by some mid-tier team, and and they want to talk to him. It's kind of like what you're talking about. It's a great opportunity for him at the given state, and maybe he takes it. Maybe it's great for him. But let's just say he continues to be focused and he's just in his groove, and he's able to win, let's say, another 4 rounds, 5 rounds. Then he's going to be approached by bigger teams, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like having to talk to these mid teams like mid tournament. It's almost like cashing in early, and you're kind of and you're forcing these players to. It's distracting, especially if you're an unsigned player and like a mid-tier team's talking to you. You're going to get distracted, even if because you're getting excited or whatnot, right?
Well, maybe the education needs to be on the player on how to handle something like that, not so much on the team, because I don't think the team, even a mid-tier team, in fact, I would encourage them to do it sooner. I mean, if they see somebody that they like, go for it. And you got to remember, I know people are mentioning that this is mid-tournament, but a tournament in which you have scheduled matches and stuff, it's not really that big of a deal during that 2-hour break, to approach a player and say, I'm really interested in your play, you're doing really well, I'd be interested in talking with you later about it. That would probably be the best way to approach it. Right. But on the other end, a player, if they're getting approached, they've got a 2-hour break and 3 teams come up to them at different times, a player really should probably handle that in a different way. I mean, don't get too excited about the first offer. But that's, again, a lot of these players are young. They don't quite understand it. Right. A team approaches them. They get all excited. But maybe the education should be more on how the players can handle that.
All right, well, I'm going to propose a little process check here because I feel like we kind of rabbit holed on this player being approached mid-tournament. And it's kind of taken us away from, I think,
let's talk about like kind of the next step, which is deciding to start Axiom eSports.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to have been if you're close to Odie, I know I approached Total Biscuit one night on Skype. We talked extensively. There's got to have been a litany of people who are from these bigger team organizations that came to you and said, can't we work together? Can't we do this? Can't we do that? I can't imagine that many of them would have said, wow, this is a really great time to start a StarCraft team. But it's possible. It's possible.
A couple of them were pretty encouraging that I spoke with, when I kind of put the idea out there. I tried to be a neutral party at that point for Crank. I'm like, look, Crank, I know that these people are coming up to you and asking you. And see, this is the thing, is that he came up to me and was concerned. He's like, there are people trying to get me to sign paper. I don't know what this says. Can you help me? And I was just supposed to say, no, you're a player. You're not on my team. I don't have a team. I can't help you, but I'm willing to help you by flying you from Korea and put you up in a hotel and let you play at MLG and stomp the open bracket. That's just not right. I think that we kind of became friends over that experience. So, I even had him and Rion come back to my house because their flight was canceled on the way back because of the typhoon. So it's just, I felt like a connection, an obligation almost to help him navigate, these foreign teams making offers. And, I took offers for almost a month from teams, and some teams put in offers and then withdrew their offers, which is not all that uncommon. It happens a lot more than I think people in the public eye know about, but it happens.
And
But
I can't imagine how that happens because from our perspective, when we decide we want you, we want you.
exactly, and that's the way I think it should be. But it does happen, and it's still happening actually. But more on that later, I guess. Things I would like to see improved in esports include.
Okay, so
the stream. Did the stream restart for you guys?
No, it's been fine for me.
Weird. Just got a random commercial then. Sorry. Go ahead.
Somebody's asking in the chat, why would with teams withdraw offers? I think they would withdraw offers if they have a limited amount of budget and they're looking at multiple players, and they make a pitch for one player, but that player is waffling back and forth between a few other offers. So then they'll say, well, okay, within 7 days or within 24 hours or 36 hours, if you don't accept that offer, then it's null and void, and then they can sign the second player that they have on their list, which makes perfect sense. It's just not the way that we operate. I don't know that it's the way that I don't think the really big teams do that, because I think on the really big teams, if we decide we want you on Quantic, damn it, we want you. Like, we'll fight for you, right? But it's not always like that, I guess.
No, it's not. I wish that more teams had that kind of commitment, I guess. But yeah, the big teams do that as well. I went through it. So
you could have gone to Odie. You could have come to us. You could have come and said, hey, let's work together. We'll bring on Total Biscuit and Husky. We can try to get some attention and eyeballs on this stuff. You guys can manage the players. Why not go that way? Why go your own way?
I think a large part of it is just that, if I felt that a team out there it was currently doing absolutely everything the way that I would want it done, and I'm not saying that there aren't teams out there who are doing things like the right way, because I don't think there's any right way. I think every team owner kind of has a mental picture in their mind of this is the way that esports should be, and this is the way that teams should be. So, we'll do it, and it'll be great, and it'll be wonderful. But I think sometimes, after a period of time, of course, that sometimes the players don't really feel like these teams are doing what's in the players' best interest. And I'm not saying, again, nothing against current teams, because, I would not be a team owner. I'd just be an investor if all I thought was, these teams are amazingly perfect in absolutely every way. They're all cookie cutter and doing everything, to the T. Then I would just be an investor. But the reason I decided to just kind of make my own team is because even at the highest offer that we got for Crank over 20 plus days when I was taking offers, the highest offer was laughable to me. It was just ridiculous. It was just, I couldn't imagine.
There is a realization, though, that I think that you go through, and it starts off something like this. Like, wow, these people are getting nothing. That's not fair. Then it goes into, wow, these people cost nothing. Let's try to help as many of them as we can. Then it goes into, while, we're hemorrhaging cash. Like, there's a whole cycle that this goes through, right? It's kind of like the 7 stages of grief. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the 7 stages of grief for an esports player. I mean, ultimately, the entire space is depressed financially.
Yep.
So you see a whole bunch of people out there who are dedicating their full-time efforts to something, and they're not being compensated to a level which allows them to pay for their basic needs. This is a bad situation.
Yep.
However, you also see teams out there who are equally struggling to survive, just putting players on planes, just getting event passes paid for, just getting hotels booked, right? And then you see the two types of team owner. The team owner who's rigorously and ruthlessly trying to make this a business, and then the team owners who are personally invested from a private equity standpoint on a monthly basis and do what they feel is right within the constraints of what they feel is going to be a long-term sustainable business down the road. How do you see yourself in that paradigm, in that quadrangle?
Well, I mean, obviously we're putting a lot of our own equity into this. We knew that from the beginning. Again, the idea of even having a team is always something that was just kind of toyed with. It was never like a serious thing until I brought Crank all of the offers. And he said, seriously, it was just absolutely a heart-wrenching moment for me. I said, this is the highest offer with the most benefits to you. Because I gave him all of the offers. I held nothing back because I didn't want to be biased. I didn't want to be known as the person who painted him into a corner and said, you have to take this because this is the best offer that there is. After looking at...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But after looking at all the offers, he's like, this is it. And he's like, well, Genna, you make team? And I said, team expensive, team lots of time, team need house, team need planes, team need hotels, team need all these things. And he says, I know, I not cost much. I not want lots of money. I just want a little money.
Right.
And it's just, it broke my heart.
It is heart-wrenching when the player says that stuff to you. You just melt. I know I do.
Yeah, but
So,
Genna, were the offers really that bad? I mean, was there any money
what
involved?
was the lowest? We're talking about $1,200 a month is the low ball, basically. Was that what we're talking about here?
The lowest offer that we received was for $300 a month.
Right, and then the highest offer would have been around $1,000 to $1,200. I'm guessing.
We didn't even get that.
wow.
Okay.
Did that include any housing or anything like that? See, to me, I mean, I don't understand. It's not that I don't understand all the numbers. Is that for me? I guess if I was getting paid $300 to play a game I'd love, I'm not sure that is necessarily a bad thing, especially if I wasn't getting paid $300 before. So I'm trying to understand, like the makeup. I mean, to me, he at the time was kind of a relatively not completely unknown, but he was still on his way up.
He was an ex-Slayers player.
Yeah, he was definitely not an unknown.
Not unknown.
I want to temper this a little bit though with the fact that there has been a misconception in the Korean scene that has been run rampant, basically, among the ESF teams and players, that the foreign teams are able to pay Korean players this huge amount of money. And I think that that's been somehow perpetrated by the fact that some Korean pros like MC and other folks like that, have been able to curry a great deal of money from their teams.
Right.
There's a great deal of Korean pros, for example, Nesty and MVP are not salaried. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a great deal of Korean pros that are not salaried, but all of their basic needs are provided for them. So when you go out into the foreign team space as a Korean player, you're looking at leaving the nest, right? You're not just looking for more money because there's supposed to be great greener grass on the other side, but you're looking at the ability to be able to cover your basic needs as well. And I think this is where it gets challenging, because a player that might be worth $300 or $400 a month to me, right, now has to deal with the fact that they're on the Korean Peninsula. They need to go to a certain number of events to stay relevant. They need to do all this stuff, and they don't have a house to live in, or whatever. Or they're staying at StarTale or whatever. Like, there's a complete packaged cost component to one of these players. It's not as simple as what's fair and what's not fair. It's not as simple as what's a good move for this guy or not a good move, right? Mm-hmm. It's a bigger breakdown. And then, when you look at the fact that the foreign players, like Naniwa, can command anywhere from $1,500 to $3K a month, right? It makes the Korean players feel like, why are we so much better than these guys, yet we're not getting nearly as much?
Well, don't you think that that's kind of the case with most North American and European players as well? I mean, most of them share their salary information over dinner, and they say, oh, well, this person makes this much. I beat this person in the last tournament. Why don't I get this amount of money? I think it's a universal thing and not just, towards Greens. But you are right. I mean, going from zero money, you look at teams like Slayers who have never salaried any player.
No.
MMA has never had a salary.
Right.
So, you look at that. I mean, sure, you might get to live in their house.
But he's called us.
Yeah.
And he's looking for $4K a month.
Yeah,
and that's
I know
crazy.
what he's looking for, and he's been offered that.
I know.
amount.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying though. Is you see what I'm saying? Like, these players that are there, they have this belief that the foreign teams can offer them this really outrageous amount, and it's not the case usually. Like, we can't. Nobody can afford to offer MMA 4K a month right now. It's just not realistic. Anybody
some teams have offered it to him.
I'm sure that there's speculative folks out there that are doing that, but I'm telling you, between you, me, and everybody else here in the chat, that's not a good business decision right now with the market the way that it is.
Well,
So the question is just no more so than it is a good business decision to pay the rates that we saw in mid 2011, late 2011. Those were the high points. The market's dropped since then, and the reason
I think it's evening out. I'm not sure dropping true, but
I think the reason
it's
it's
getting to a point where it's the way it should be for a while.
That's true. That's a very good point. I think the equilibrium that we're seeing now is also a stagnation on the revenue inflow side. That's not necessarily just built around what I want to pay a player. I mean, what I want to pay a player and what I can pay a player. How many players I can actually support are two totally different things.
So Genna, in regards to Crank, and after him saying that, did you ever consider kind of going more of a CSN Violet route and just sponsoring, managing him for, supporting him for maybe a little bit longer and having him play a few more tournaments? And
that was initially what I proposed. I proposed a couple different options to him. I said, okay, well, maybe we go and we talk to Dignitas. Maybe we ask for, a low amount, and then maybe we sponsor the rest of your salary, and that way you can be part of a team, but, still have a connection to us, and you're getting a good salary. Or, do this with a different team. The answer that I got from him, for the most part, anytime I mentioned a team, was like, other Korean players say this about this team's Korean manager, or, different things. Like, there was so much underhandedness that the Koreans don't really trust a lot of the foreign teams, for the most part.
No, they don't. No, they really don't.
They kind of have a right to not trust some of them, I feel. I mean,
fair. Yeah.
it's dangerous in a way when you see these contracts for like $300 a month. They also want 25% of whatever winnings you have if you do win. You have to pay for all of your upfront costs first, and then you'll be reimbursed for whatever is reasonable. You can only go to the tournaments that they say you can go to. And all of this for an independent contractor. Which is kind of interesting considering that, as a business owner, I have independent contractors. I can't tell them when to work, how to work, or, any specifics on how to do their job. So why is it that these Koreans are practicing for 60 hours plus a week, just to be at the top of their game, but yet, these people are able to say, okay, well, you need to go here, and you need to play this now, and do all these things, and we'll tell you exactly A, B, C, and D how to do these things. Not only is it illegal, but it doesn't allow the player any freedom at all. It's controlling their life in such a way that, again, as an independent contractor, you do not provide that player with any medical benefits. These players sit up for hours a day on ladder. They sit up and watch VODs all the time. They sit up and take English lessons. Well, at least in my case, Crank does, because we're buying him English lessons because that's what he wanted. So you're asking these players to sit up for 60 hours a week, and they have hip problems, they have back problems, they have neck problems, they have carpal tunnel. What's going to happen to these players after 5 years when their career ends because they just can't keep up with all these kids coming up through the ladder and picking up teams going to tournaments? What's going to happen to them? They have no retirement. They have, no insurance paid from the companies. They don't feel any sense of loyalty to any team because these teams aren't investing in the players. Sure, they'll pay you a salary. They'll put you on a plane. Will they give you a 401k? Not likely.
Genna, it sounds like you actually care.
I do.
Yeah.
Which is something
I
that
do.
Exactly.
Well, and that's fine. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. That's good, and I actually applaud you and agree with all of that. How realistic it is, I don't know, and I hope that you guys succeed at maybe changing the model or the idea behind what a team can offer a player. But I would say that in most sports. I guess you do get the insurance, things like that, but it didn't always start that way. I mean, when a lot of sports got started, you showed up, you got a very small, stipend to play, and you traveled all week, and you're away from your family, and you practiced, 7 days a week, and that was your life. And that may be a little bit about what, eSports is going through, the growing pains of going through that before somebody like yourself comes along and says, you know what, my contract to the players is going to offer a lot more, and not just not necessarily in money, but just a lot more to the player. And of course, by doing that, some of these players are going to say, no, I'm not going to choose Team A or Team B. I'm going to choose your team, Genna's team, because they offer something above and beyond what Team A and B does. And then Team A and B says, well, shit, we better start offering some of that too. So I think what you're doing is very good. But I also think that part of just playing and working and putting them on a plane and having them compete, that's kind of sports. It's kind of how it works.
I think it's, I just want to point out that the StarCraft community is actually an improvement from many other communities. We won 4 Call of Duty championships last year, and we introduced player agreements into the Call of Duty space. We were called out like, oh my God, why are these people doing this? This is horrible. They want to do contracts. And honestly, like the players that we were talking to and the teams we were talking to, wow, they were actually showing up to events where there was no hotel booked for them because nobody had booked a hotel for them.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, I mean, you have to understand that, like in StarCraft, actually, things are, like, considering how bad they sound, they're actually about as good as they get. And I also want to just point out, too, that I would love to provide healthcare benefits to my players, but it would absolutely insta-put me out of business.
Yep. But if you had the chance to start your business over again and you only had one player and you planned on expanding the right way, slowly, and I'm not saying you expanded in the wrong way, I'm not meaning that at all, but if you knew now, if you knew then what you know now, would you not have maybe reloaded everything a little bit differently? Take on one player and outfit them with a full package to create that player loyalty and then build your team based on that?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't. Because my business would be completely fucked if I did that. Because I would be further upside down on all these players than I am right now. If I'm already upside down on all the players. Already.
I think everybody is.
If I were to be twice as upside down on half as many players, with half the sponsorship revenue that I have, I would be so baked. I just don't know how I would. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand. And
I think that's a common problem, though. You're right.
It's a very common problem.
Right.
I think that
ideally that's how I would like to do it. Yes. Yeah. Right.
And that's how I can do it. That's the thing, and that's one of the main reasons I did want to make a team, is because I can do that. Because I have the venture capital that I make off of my own business to be able to do that. And sure, it is a money sink. Sure, my son will probably kill me when his inheritance someday is not amazing, but there are more important things,
So basically,
money.
So this is what I was talking to John and Chris about earlier this week when they told me that you were the guest. I said, all right, so let's just talk nuts and bolts here. Let's talk legit here, okay? Legit is that now instead of one business, there are 2.
Sure.
There's one that makes money and there's one that spends money.
Yep.
And the fact of the matter is that selling the media might be great, but you can sell the media pitch angle all day long. You can do media buys, you can resell views, you can do embedded advertising, you can do all this kind of crap. But you're selling media, not team sponsorship. You're selling media. Like
we plan to do both.
EG sells media. EG sells media more than they sell team sponsorships. And they just happen to dump all the money that they get from selling media back into teams. Yeah. And that's kind of where a lot of us are. A lot of us are being forced to run 2 or 3 businesses right now because there is no quote-unquote team sponsorship. Nobody wants to put these players on these planes. They want to buy views that they can say, okay, look, this is a very discrete metric for how many views people saw my brand this month, and I'm willing to pay 43 cents per whatever 1,000 views for that, and that's what I'm going to pay you, and that's it. I don't care who gets on a plane, who goes where, and if they do, it's just because they want to try to run your life instead of actually helping you.
Mm-hmm. But, I'm hoping that at some point that, one will, like they will have this kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Symbiotic kind of nature about each other, because right now, sure, the initial influx into the team for attention is going to be the Cynical Brit brand, obviously. Right. But again, we encountered this problem when we first met Crank. He had no idea who we were. This opens up an entire new market in ways in Korea to be like, well, who are these people? What is this about? I mean, Husky StarCraft is also, sponsoring us in this venture. And, for him, it's kind of the same thing. We would hope that people in Korea know kind of a little who we are. I mean, obviously, there's a language barrier, but, even that attention, the initial curiosity could foster something. And I'm not expecting it to be huge, and I'm in no ways ever expecting to turn a profit off of this.
Well,
I'd be stupid if I said I would, but...
I'm envious because honestly, I didn't have that kind of media attention and eyeballs to bring into the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had to actually pay for that.
Yeah.
So you're very fortunate in by having that kind of
definitely.
exposure to be able to bring to the equation. But I mean, ultimately, I think that we're all facing the fundamental problem here, and that is that the round trip business model breaks around quarter 3 or 4, and the game never ends. And where we're trying to figure this out, I think, me and John have talked about this many times, is direct fan revenue. And I think that maybe that's something that you guys can innovate a little bit on, because you have these huge personalities that are talking directly with these large fan bases. And I think that that's really central. I think that if Total Biscuit comes out and says, hey, support my team because nobody's making any money doing this right now. We're trying to provide players the best we can right now. We're trying to provide them the best opportunities. At least a lot of people are going to give Total Biscuit their money. Like, if Quantic comes out and does that, like, not that many people are going to give us money. Does that make sense? So that's an advantage you guys already have going right out of the gate.
Oh, we knew that.
Yeah, it's why it's unique.
I would
hoping
crowdsource this mofo so bad. I would donation fund this thing, because the sponsors, and I saw this on your AMA Reddit. You were talking about getting additional sponsorship. What's your plans about that? Because even Total Biscuit with his charming smile isn't going to get you sponsors.
We actually have a couple sponsors who are talking to us right now, to be primary sponsors of the team. So, we've met so many people over the course of our careers in gaming and game media. So, we know a lot of people. And, right now we're just kind of, reaching out to those people and, saying, hey, is this something that you'd like to potentially be involved in? But we're also being pretty upfront with them as well. I mean, eSports has horrible ROI for most sponsors. I mean,
it's not
sure
trackable.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. So, being able to kind of foster that kind of trust, so we're just working on expanding current relationships and just kind of getting a feel for what, what kind of opportunities are out there. But, again, Axiom could be a small thing, but it could also be a big thing. I personally wouldn't look at taking any more players than like maybe 5, just for a while, just to make sure that everything does gel well. I plan to expand very, very slowly, and I know that's probably not very advantageous for sponsors, but you know what? I don't really care. I don't really need them. I would like them. Do I need them? No.
Well, that's kind of... I completely concur, because that's kind of how we view things as well. I mean, we have a few sponsors that try to think that they run the show around here, and they think that that they're our only sponsor. I couldn't believe that. They told one of my co-owners who's been pouring money into the company that they thought that we were they were our only sponsor, and he like literally dropped his jaw.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Just have to go to your website or any of your channels to know that they're not the only sponsor.
Come on, guys.
No, definitely not.
That's kind of the attitude that I think a lot of the sponsors have been getting stuff for way too cheap, and they've been getting it for way too long.
Yeah.
And so all the logistical support and all of the cost and expense associated with what we do on a monthly or daily basis to get these players to events, nobody wants to pay for that. They do not want to pay for that. So they want to pay for the activations, but not for that.
So a question about sponsors, Genna. Do you find that... Okay, so first off, are the sponsors you're talking about the same folks that, maybe like sponsor sponsor your media company?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, some to an extent, as in we've kind of like worked together previously, but the Cynical Brit company actually isn't sponsored by anyone. We make our revenue on YouTube and additional, appearances basically. John's casting, obviously, and when we've been engaged at conventions and that sort of thing. But I mean, we're not really endorsed by anyone. We do our own thing, and that's the way it's always been. We've always run our own business ever since Cynical Brit brand started. So we're not beholden to anyone.
Right. So,
Genna, So, I mean, from listening to you, and I love listening to what you have to say. Your model for what you're doing with your team is really a lot different than a
Than
lot of
anything
the
else.
current models.
Yep, it's very
Yeah.
unique.
I
Really,
know.
in the sense that you're already going into this knowing you're not doing it to make money. This is
No.
basically like a product of your media. This is using
Right.
the revenue that you're making from the media and the other things that you're doing to support a team in a different way, or
Yes.
a player, or in that sense.
Hooray for
Um,
that.
So it really is a different model in the sense that you're not trying to turn a profit. Your team is
No.
not there to make a profit. Your team is there for what you guys want to do.
Exactly.
That's what
Um,
And I think that that's really what I really want to see from this personally. My hope for you guys is innovating this business model.
Yes.
Is to be able to say, okay, look, we're only going to take on a very few players. This is our approach, and this is the type of, and somebody just in the chat said philanthropy. Yes, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the party,
Yes.
folks. That's what we're all doing here.
Exactly.
That's what everybody does. Every team
People
owner
don't-
out here is doing philanthropy.
These are
Exactly.
philanthropic efforts. Do we ever think we're going to get this money back? A lot of us have long time ago, we've come to terms with the fact that that's probably not going to happen. What we'd like to end up with is a business that can support itself at
Yes,
some point, but do
breaking
we ever think
even
we're going to
is
get
the
the
goal.
money back? Fuck no, we're never going to get the money back. All right, sorry. So,
No.
innovation is really what I want to look for from you guys, because if you guys can do this right and build the actual player support model right, then the sponsorship side, as much as you don't need it, maybe that'll actually, like, who knows? Like, that's the thing about innovation. You never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So, yeah, I mean, the beauty of it is that, from a social network, social media standpoint, you've already got that giant following, right? So, like, when you're talking to sponsors, I mean, are they trying to leverage that? Like, having a sponsor for Axiom, I mean, are they really looking into
Yeah.
really leveraging y'all's reach more than anything else?
I mean, they're always interested in numbers.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, how many YouTube subscribers do you have? Well, our primary business has this many. Would we be willing to support the team through our primary channels? Sure. Why not? I mean, what's the difference in me going to, John and having him, cast games, with our players on his Twitch channel? That's what he would do anyway through the Cynical Brit brand.
Right.
What's the difference in me going to Husky and saying, hey, Husky, would you like to cast some of these Heart of the Swarm replays, that Crank's going through? Is he going to say no? I don't think so, considering he's a sponsor of Axiom.
Right.
So, again, a lot of the expense that a lot of teams have, financial-wise, accounting-wise, legal, all of that has already been done through our primary business anyway. So, we don't actually have a lot of cost when it comes to even menial things like graphic design. We have a graphic designer who's on our payroll from the primary business, and we just pay him more. So,
Yeah.
we don't have tons of costs. The majority of
Hey,
our costs
Chris?
will
Yep.
be travel, obviously.
can you remod Total Biscuit in the chat so that everybody can see his posts easier?
He's not modded? I
Nope.
just modded him, like, earlier.
Okay. Weird.
Jeez, okay. Sorry, John. I had modded him earlier, jeez.
So I think that what Total Biscuit's been saying basically is the same thing that, like the same that I had a technology consulting company, right? But the same thing. Okay, look, so it's sponsored by Solutions Mark, right? And so, but the thing is eventually that $25,000 a month I was pouring into it wasn't enough. And it just kept growing on its own, right? And sure, I could have stamped it down and said, okay, well, I'm just going to have a mid-sized team forever, but so what? Right? Or I can try for, a seat at the table with the big boys or whatever, And so I got more partners involved and I got more people involved and everything else, and, down the road we went, right? I guess the thing is, from my perspective, is though, these things drink cash.
Oh, yeah.
They drink
Very
cash
easily.
like it's water. So, I mean, it is definitely easy to get into things at a level where you're like, holy shit. This one event's costing us like $11,000.
Yeah.
And that's 14-day advance. So, I mean, I really applaud you for having discipline and saying, hey, look, I want to just do this with a very, very few select players. This is like the Ivy League Academy, where only the very elite, the few, the proud,
Exactly.
the Marines, like, can you stand up here with these men? You think you should be? You think you're good enough? Are you man enough? Are you woman enough? I think that's great. I really do. And
No, it's a. I mean, we've been talking about the team space for a while and just how cutthroat it can be, and that sort of thing on the show, and it's really refreshing to basically have you guys doing this, and this model is just amazing. Having basically a successful business and then starting.
You're going to have players knocking down your door.
Yes,
we already do. We already do, and
that's good.
We all do.
Yeah. Oh, this is true. Everyone's always shopping around. Are you kidding? This is eSports.
We all do. They're all knocking up. Like, geez, we've had 10% of the world's grandmasters apply to Quantic.
Oh yeah.
And so,
I don't doubt it.
So how many players by the end of the year, Genna?
I'm hoping to at least have 3 out of the 5. I would like to. Obviously there are a number of players who will be free agents soon, as teams are, unfortunately, in Korea are closing. So we are in contact with many, many people. Of course, we still have people from North America and from Europe contacting us as well. And, right now, as far as Axiom is concerned, I really just kind of want to focus on Korean players. Just for the time being. I'm not going to close myself off to the possibility of saying that we will never, ever sponsor an EU player, because that's just ridiculous. Everybody needs help right now. But the way that I kind of look at this right now is, I just, in the small span of time that I've been a team owner, all of 1 week now, I guess, I have found that there are some pretty extreme situations going on in Korea that I had no idea as an outsider, I guess, as a foreign fan, as they would put it. A lot of people just don't understand what it's like to have no salary. Sure, you might have housing, you might have food, and you might get flights and hotels, but you don't have money at all. I mean, you're consistently having to ask your parents for money. As a Korean, that is even more shameful than it would be for us to have to go to our parents and ask for money as adults. Crank is 24 years old. He's already been through the military. We have so many players, so many Korean players who will actually have to go in the military soon. Players who will leave the scene for a couple years. So with Crank, I'm kind of safe in that regard. I don't have to worry about him having to disappear because of his mandatory military service. So that's a good thing. A little bit of security there in an unsecure world. But
that is good.
Yeah, but when I found out that, and this is just kind of something that just really cheesed me initially, is Crank has currently lives in Seoul, which is crazy expensive. Houses there can easily be $2 million to buy. So your cost of living in Seoul is higher than it is in most parts of America. But yet, again, we kind of go back to teams offering $300 a month kind of thing. And that's supposed to pay for your rent. That's supposed to pay for your food. That's supposed to pay for all these things if you don't offer team housing and all of the amenities that some of these other teams can offer.
Who is it? That's the
of course.
Because when you have a player who can go through the open bracket and make it into top 8, right? And that's a totally different situation than when there's a lot of people out there who want to be playing games professionally, but you just can't do it, right? I mean,
exactly. But the situation that I kind of found Crank in, because I hadn't known kind of what his actual living situation was, but he has 3 roommates. All 3 are signed, contracted players at present. They are all with teams. So now Crank being the 4th, so 4 people in a 1-bedroom apartment in Seoul, basically living off of cup noodle, and no beds, none. These are players who are really good players.
So you mean my players at Starktail are balling it? Is that what you're saying? They balling it?
I don't know.
Dude, they're Gangnam style.
Starktail house.
They have their own little room with 3 bunk bed thingies in it. They are got it set up over there, man.
Gangnam styling it, dude.
Gangnam style, right?
I mean, seriously.
Look like Gangnam style.
But so it really shows you kind of what kind of situation some Koreans are actually in, where they will basically, and I hope Crank doesn't mind me saying, but leave a team like Slayers, who provides housing, provides
There's a lot of people leaving Team Slayers
flights,
for various different reasons right now.
Yeah, but provides the basic essentials. I mean, sure, they won't give you any money. They won't take any of your winnings, which I guess is one good thing. And Jessica cooks when they have to have to leave and go to things like IPL. She'll cook, which is great. But we won't give you any money, no salary, ever. And so what kind of person must it take, what kind of courage must it take at that point to be a player for a team and say, okay, I have no money, and I'm going to give up the place I live, the place I eat, and the people who give me flights to go to these events because I am just fed up with the way that things are.
Genna,
That's a big jump.
This is perfect timing, actually. Today, I am also a graphic designer, which I hear you are as well. And I'm taking a class, and we had to go through some magazines, and I pulled out some of my old PC gamer magazines, and this one was from 2007, and I'll hold it up here. But it's a story about. It's 5 years old, which is great. It's a great read, actually. And just as you were talking about that, I started reading it, and they're talking about the life of a Korean player in Korea in 2007. It was. Yeah, they called it a sweatshop. They share a room with 3 other people that's no bigger than a large closet. They practice 13 hours a day. And a lot of these players have become used to this. This is just the way it is in Korea. I mean, so for you, even offering a handshake and a hello and a warm cup of milk will do a lot more than what a lot of these guys are getting already, which I think is great.
And you would think that the situation would change. I mean, you would think that maybe since that article, the things would be better.
It's the same situation there. There's the haves and the have-nots, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Star Tails, right, which have a lot of support, right? There is the IMs, which have the support, right? We used to be partnered with them as well, even to a certain degree, Prime. But I mean, then there's other folks on the other side right now, like who for whatever reason, whether they've burned bridges with sponsors or whether they've done made bad business management decisions or just had bad luck. There's a lot of luck involved in this too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Just had some bad luck, and now they're finding it very difficult to make ends meet. And what do you do when it's very difficult to make ends meet? You keep trying and you strive and you fight the good fight, and it's not always easy, and you have to make concessions and you have to upset people And does that mean that you should just give up and say, forget it, well, we're not going to support these players at all? Well, no, because we're seeing what happens when that happens, and that is that nobody's supporting the players. That's when you have all these Korean players that can make top 8 MLG, but nobody cares because that's what, we're out of money.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I want to get some questions in from the viewers, so why don't we start up some Q&A? You guys cool with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys, start adding me on Skype. My Skype ID is ChanmanV, and the way we'll do it is I'll pull you into the call. You don't have to call me, but add me on Skype and message me too, because sometimes the Skype contact request thing is lagged, so sometimes I'll get them like an hour later or something like that. But all right, we got a caller right now. Let me switch over to this for now. We got Mikhail, who wanted to call in last show, so I promised him he'd be first this show. Kurt's not around, so we'll see if Kurt will jump in later.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hey, welcome to Climbing Ladder.
Nice to be here. I have some questions for the guests, so I would like to ask the questions first and maybe give everyone a little bit of time to think about it. Is that okay?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, first is for Mark. The question is related to marketing of teams. You complained about having really hard time finding sponsors, but do you think you do everything you can to market the team? Case in point would be Quantic had Naniwa, and it had really weak promotion marketing, in my opinion. Maybe people beg to differ. And it's not just for Quantic. There's Mouse, Dignitas, who has and had great players, but they're not doing great marketing. For Genna. Okay.
It's okay. It happens all the time.
Okay, it's pretty well known that Koreans are hard to market because they have meek personalities and there's the language barrier. Do you have any plan to market them? And there's a lot of players that have good marketing value like MMA, Bolt, MVP, Maka Prime, who I love, but you just don't see them do anything really marketing related. So I don't know. I wanted to hear your thoughts about how you can market these players, your players, or the future one, or Crank, or whoever. What's the vision in your opinion? And for CSN, Clark, John.
Yes.
it's my understanding that you consider CNN to be also a tournament organizer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually what we are first, but yes.
Yeah, but okay, I just wanted to make that clear. So it's related to the fact that players get paid, well, shit. Okay, I'll say it. Should teams get anything from tournaments? I think prize money doesn't cut it. When you get like MLG big and you get millions of views and big sponsors, like okay, I'm drawing a blank, but they get big sponsors, so I don't know.
And I love this caller, man. I love you, caller.
Dr.
Caller,
Pepper.
can I say that I love you?
You can't expect prize money to stay in so many teams. It's ridiculous how many good players there are, but you can't expect a better win average than 60% for StarCraft anyway. Mm-hmm. So you just cannot win more than 1, 2, maximum 3 tournaments per year. So that's, if you're Stefano, godlike level, if you're not, you're not gonna get anything. So the tournaments are actually making money out of teams, so shouldn't they give money to teams? So that's about it.
Yes.
Good question.
Yes.
Did you like that answer? Yes.
All right, who wants to go first with their perspective question?
I can go. I was the first question, so I can go first with the answer.
Okay.
Or would you rather our guest go first?
Why didn't Genna go first? Ladies first.
Oh,
Sure.
Okay. Well, basically, what I'm trying to achieve is kind of do something that it's like I hate to name teams because I don't think any team really like markets in a way that I think that I would do, I guess, entirely. But for example, like some of the marketing that I guess EG does, I would kind of like to bring some of that to the team a bit, be able to show Koreans do have personality, be able to show them in unique situations in which they could better express who they are, not just as a player, but as a person, to really kind of convey that these guys aren't just products, and sure, you see them at tournaments, but make them more approachable. I think that a Korean has just as much ability to be marketable, even to a sponsor. Then, I mean, yeah, I mean, look at MC. I mean, if you can get him to wear whatever it is that your company does and dance on a stage in the event he wins, or even if he doesn't win, I mean, who says MC has to dance at a specific time? I mean, MC could just go up there at any time, and I don't think MLG would throw him off the stage for it. So.
Yeah, but Korean teams don't do it. That's what I just wanted to say.
So I'm hoping to do that, and after talking with Crank about it, and Crank is so involved in the creation of this team. I think that's one of the best things about it is he's just so excited to kind of work on these ideas with me to kind of be a bit of a celebrity in his own right, and I think everyone wants that kind of attention or limelight at some point.
I think the idea of you offering him English classes is probably going to be your biggest asset, to be honest with you. That's one of the things that helped Violet when he was with at the CSN training camp was, it was his play at first, but once he started to interact more with the viewers that were tuning in, online, and then being able to go to live events and be able to say, a few words and interact with mostly English-speaking people, it really did help. Because it opens up the personality. You actually get to see a little bit of it.
Exactly.
Not just that, you guys know how to entertain. So, I mean, you can definitely give him a lot of tips too that other folks won't be privy to. So.
Yeah, and I think that kind of nicely dovetails into my answer as well. I think that the caller's question was about player brand marketing. I think that there's partner marketing, there's player brand marketing, there's the team itself as a brand, and then there's the logistics and the actual competition, activity that we participate in. I think that the question you would, when you referenced to your question about Naniwa, I think that Naniwa's brand.
That was the case in point part. Yeah,
Naniwa's brand actually got revitalized a great deal while he was with our team. Not necessarily because of our immense promotion of his brand, because he's already got all the attention that he needs, but because of the professionalism and the coaching that we gave him to help him understand how and why and when things were important and when things needed to be done a certain way. something that's very difficult to do with a player as complex as Naniwa. Now, that being said, we as a team are much more naturally fit for that type of work. Taking care of the players, getting them to the events, seeing them through, making sure the planes are on time, making sure there's a guy with a clipboard who's running a shuttle van, making sure, like, squeezing every single nickel and dime out of every dollar that we get to be able to get the players there and competing at the best of their ability. That's what we do. We're a team. That's what teams do.
Yeah,
all this
yeah,
Well,
marketing,
that's what
Nanny, what?
should.
all this marketing, all the marketing stuff.
Right now, it's
Yeah,
not
all
a
the
real.
The marketing
Let-
stuff
let
comes on
Mark
top
finish.
of that.
There you go.
The marketing stuff comes on top of that. So once you realize that in order to do that, you need to get sponsors, then you need to have partner marketing so that you can actually represent your sponsors on your jerseys and on your social properties. And oh my God, we actually need to build a fan book following on Facebook and Twitter and maybe on YouTube as well. And we need to get some eyeballs in here. And then you get the eyeball people, and you have your eyeball players and your performance players, and you start to build up your bases and your properties and your traffic. And then you're like, oh, well, shit, the players that we have that aren't that popular, they're really good too. In fact, they're really better than some of the players that we have that are that popular. Like Theognis can whip Maximus Black's ass up, down, left, and right, and nobody even knows who he is. So maybe we should invest in building that player's brand.
Who's
And-
Maximus Black?
I don't know. The whole thing becomes self-feeding, and it's this whole self-fulfilling prophecy. The only defense I could give for you, Mikkel, is that there's one or two too many loops happening at the same time. I think if we could focus on let's make sure the players are the best they can be, and that they're everywhere on time, and that their shit's taken care of first, and we had some support to do that, then I think you might find that there's completely separate businesses in the space that are brought up to do all this other marketing shit, to be quite honest with you.
I mean,
I think the
yeah, but
marketing should be considered separate for sure. It really should be about the team and pushing that aspect of it forward. The marketing is a bonus.
A service that the NFL provides its teams, for example.
Exactly.
One suggestion: don't you think that people would tune in to watch the Quantic players just be on a Skype call talking about probably anything and stream it?
Like
I
strategies,
think they would
like
get
on Pro
more
Corner.
views than State of the Game, or almost
No.
as big as State of Game, just being there and talking.
I love you.
And that's zero cost.
I love you so much. I would kiss you if I could right now. No, I think you're right. I think you're right. We need more reality content. You're correct. We need to bring the fans closer to the players. You're correct. That's something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. But we've had our players do fan night, do player night, do team games, do stuff on Skype. Nobody watches.
People want video. People want video.
People want that.
Live, want stream.
They want it anchored by a Total Biscuit. If I had Total Biscuit show up to that event, then everybody would come and watch, and they would love the shit out of it. Not just because of Total Biscuit, but because the players are freaking amazing. But the thing is that you can be the best player in the world, but if nobody's watching, it just doesn't matter.
Well, you just need somebody organizing the media aspect of it, and that's
Did you,
that's where
did
Total
you
would come.
try to make a stream like that, just out of curiosity?
Yes, we did. Yep.
Okay, John.
It's so saturated too.
Yeah.
That's
It is. There's so much content out there right now.
So much.
To get the media, to get the hype machine behind your content, man, you've got to be placed on Reddit properly. You've got to have all the social stuff. You've got to have retweets from all the right people. You've got to have support from all the right people. And honestly, if you're not in this, if you're not in the circle, man, it's like Mexico City, bro. They'll watch you set up and then they'll shut you down. You know, man. You gotta know the right people, pay the piper. You know.
Mark, Quantic Cast night on Brooklyn, man.
Dude, I'm ready. Let's go, man. Let's go.
All right, John, got to answer your question, then we got to move on. These are great questions, Mikael, though.
Yeah. Do I think it's the leagues or the gaming or the event organizers' responsibility to take care of the teams more? I think it'd be nice, but I don't think it's as important as the teams taking care of the teams. That really should be key. I mean, and I know it seems small and insignificant, but I'm going to hold this picture up again.
Okay.
I love that picture.
What does everyone notice about that picture of those players?
Hot Koreans.
That could be part of it.
Oh
They
snap!
kind of all look the same. They actually look pretty similar to me, like just
They look
from far
good.
away.
It could actually be the same guy just repeated over and over.
It's like boxer, more boxer, some more boxer.
Exactly. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm a freaking Asian.
Right. When I say take care of the teams need to be taking care of the teams more too. I mean, if we do put that on the leagues and the organizations to do that, then the teams themselves will just not do it, and then we'll be back at square one again as far as taking care of the players. So, I mean, if you show up at an event as a team, you really should be showing up as a professional team, and that would require that you're getting taken. That would mean that you're getting taken care of by your team. I don't really think that the organization should invest too much in trying to do that, although there are models in the works, and I'm actually going to have a discussion tomorrow with some people about, what sort of association could be put together that kind of embodies a lot of the organizations and puts some of these this criteria on the organizations to provide a little bit more incentive to the teams. When CSN has ran some events, either the Gigabyte Esports LAN or the Lone Star 2, the Lone Star Clash, some of the things that we did was a little different than other events. We had breakfast for them in the mornings. We transported them to and from their hotels and things. Those are some things that we did differently. I don't think that should be required. I really think a lot of that should be on the team.
All right. Thanks, Mikhail. Long verse.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we're gonna pull on Brian here. I mean, I only have time for one or two more, but that was a doozy of a first question. All right, we got Bryce, actually, not Brian. He's got a question in regards to rules and regulations.
Hello, sorry.
Yep. Hey, Bryce, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Welcome to Climbing the Ladder.
Thank you. I just have a question for all of you real quick. Do you think that there should be more regulations and rules as far as salary and pay for the players in these tournaments?
I mean, regulations and rules placed on who by who?
Placed on more how the tournaments are set up as far as sponsors paying certain amounts to go towards more of the players instead, and the teams paying the players set salaries to make a more.
It's like you basically what you're talking about is like the $1 million question right now in esports. And honestly, like, if you don't think that the big teams like us and Dignitas and others are talking about using each other's Twitters and about trying to form some kind of ability to engage with these things more properly, I mean, we're talking about it, but I don't think we're there yet. The Esports Congress was a good step in the right direction. But I mean, yes, is the answer to your question. Yes, there definitely needs to be a better revenue handshake between the folks who are running the events and have the guaranteed exposure metrics to offer to partners, and the folks who are paying for the training and travel and logistical support of the individual players that bring those fans to their events.
All right. Thank you for your answer.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bryce. All right, we got... actually, we have a question here from... Just a text question because his mic doesn't work, from Havmond. He has a question for Genna, and the question is, are you guys only targeting, I guess, folks with financial problems at the moment?
I wouldn't say, besides, a couple Koreans I can think of, almost every Korean out there has problems. Either, they're not getting a salary, or their contract conditions are abysmal, that kind of thing. The one thing I don't want people to take away from Axiom is, we're just, we're just looking for sob stories to help or whatever. The situation that we're dealing with right now is a very real situation, and I know that other Korean players are probably in that kind of similar situation. But it's not something that we actively tried to seek out, a player just, down on their luck, oh, let's turn this into a Cinderella story to make for great publicity. That's not exactly what I'm trying to achieve, I guess. I'm not saying that I wouldn't look at other Koreans who maybe aren't in such, a bad financial situation. I'm definitely open to that as well. But seeing as Crank is the team captain, I'm, of course, consulting with him on who he thinks, could contribute in a positive way to the team. I'm just looking to bring a group of people together that, will gel well, who will support each other, and, who actually have a passion for the game and aren't just, looking for a stable salary just because Koreans haven't been offered one and passed from Korean teams. I hope that answers in a long roundabout way.
Yeah, actually, I just added him to the call because I didn't realize his mic actually does work. So welcome to.
Hi guys.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Hopefully that answered your question. But I know you have another one.
Yeah, I have another one. A pretty general question. I wrote to you: should international sponsors try to sponsor general Korean tournaments like the GSL, since so many foreigners actually watch the tournaments? I don't know how many Koreans actually watch it, but I know it's a very big event in the foreigner scene, and that also something for Genna, since she's trying to open up for the Korean scene and trying to get into the business over there. What do you guys think, and especially Genna?
Especially me.
I think it'd be great if more big brands could sponsor anything.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
I'm just looking for an auto company, for a bank, for a major food, or beverage vendor. I'm looking for anybody in that area, anybody you'd see on traditional sports, media outlets, to be getting involved. I want to see somebody more than Asus and more than AMD and more than Intel and more than Razer and more than nothing I don't love about computer parts. I love my computer parts, man. I buy them all the time as much as I can, but there's other shit to life besides computer parts.
You want someone to be the official airline of Quantic Gaming.
Damn straight.
I'm looking for that too.
Well, to follow up that with your answer, how do you think that the esports should try to market it towards these, let's say, not general sponsors we have today, but the bigger ones like you're talking about?
Lifestyle sponsors. We call them lifestyle sponsors,
right.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Basically, the consensus that appears to be out there right now is that all of the big teams in the world need to come together and go and pitch those companies together, and potentially all of the tournaments as well. We need to be able to bring the full weight of the industry as it stands right now to bear to get their attention. Mm-hmm. To just buy Quantic or just buy Dignitas, maybe they win, maybe they lose, maybe whatever happens, maybe the tournament rules change, maybe, we need to be able to provide them some safety in both the fact that we all know what we're doing, that we're going to do things right within reason, that we're not going to make a fool of them, and that we can provide them a reliable metric for their brand. I think if we do that, they'll engage. But I mean, once we get past the fancy videos, it makes everybody all emotional and everybody says, wow, that's really cool, I want to be involved. But I mean, when you get to the business brass tacks of it, right? And I think that's what, from my prior conversations with Genna, I don't know, that you and I have talked about that in the past as well, about Total Biscuit being a force to help make that happen, about the eSports Congress and stuff like that. So I'm interested to hear your answer to this.
I mean, seriously, I feel like I'm kind of piggybacking. Because, I mean, that's kind of, what I really want to see is just, if everyone could come together, and be able just to, shove esports in the face of, those marketing execs at these big companies who just think that, oh, well, they're just playing computer games. It's fine. Let's let them do their own little thing, and we'll only market to people who use, hardware or use a graphics card or use a mouse. I mean, there's so much more out there than that. These people eat food, they drink drinks, and of course, we do have a good number of drink sponsors out there that are sponsoring esports, but there's so many more things that people use in their everyday lives that are certainly marketable. You just have to kind of go through it, go about it a little bit out of the box, I guess, because you have to be consistent. And I think when sponsors are able to see that you can consistently promote their brand in maybe something that's more appealing to social networking, videos on YouTube, for example, but not, obviously cheesy marketing. It's like, oh, we're just going to shove this specific item in your face all the time. Go buy this now. No, that's just ridiculous. But
the fact of the matter is that the Cynical Brit has, and so does Husky, have a great deal of cross-demographic access, not just to the hardcore gamer, but to the casual gamer as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just about being able to show that, to be able to say, sure, these are the numbers, but how much of that can you say, this is going to be the engagement I mean, I can give you all the view counts we've had on videos.
Here's the engagement, right?
Yeah.
These are the people who are going to actually pay attention and notice that something just happened.
Exactly.
And maybe actually do something even, which would be great. If we could track that, that'd be even better.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's the things where like you're asking a question about how do we link this all together? Like, okay, so MLG can get Gillette, right? That's a Razer company, right? That's great. Okay, not the Razer keyboard, Razer like for your face. Okay, so now if MLG used like a viewer, like a web-based viewer for their stream that allowed people to click on the Gillette ads as the matches occurred and whatnot, right?
Yep.
And then they were to provide tracking to the teams. When Idra was playing, this many people clicked the Gillette ad. When Naniwa was playing, this many people clicked the Gillette ad. When STC was quietly destroying everybody in the open bracket and nobody noticed, this many people clicked the Gillette ad. And then, based on that, be able to do some distribution of revenue, because saying, okay, well, MLG can get Gillette. Look, I've talked to a lot of these companies, Genna. They all say, oh, Major League Gaming, oh, yeah, we've talked to them before. Oh, I'm sure you have.
I bet they have.
I'm sure you have.
Oh, no.
I do not doubt it. They're diligent people, very thorough.
So, attention, action, right? I mean, like, they have their attention, but do they have action? Mm-hmm. But as that groundswell continues, like, if you look at MLG's, like, headset sponsors now, it's not just Astro. Like, they're engaged with SteelSeries and Turtle Beach and a few other folks. They don't need to offer exclusivity anymore in order to get this money. They're like, no, we don't need to give you exclusivity. Buy some ad space. If MLG is the one selling the advertising and we're the ones taking care of the players, and there's some arrangement between the two of us so that we can get a portion of that ad revenue, I think that this whole thing starts to look like a lot more of a sustainable model. Now, will we get there? Shit, I don't know, man. I don't know, but I sure hope so, because teams selling ad space isn't working. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, even for EG, even for the big boys, I mean, like, running two businesses when you're really trying to run one is not, I mean, yeah, great, but I mean, maybe it's working. But I mean, does Alex even have a paycheck? I mean, they're pouring all their money back into everything right now. Everybody is. At least they have some money to pour.
Money on a loop.
Exactly. All right, thanks for the call, buddy.
No problem.
All right, let's. I think that's going to be it for Q&A today, guys. I think great questions. So thank you, viewers, for calling in and asking the wonderful questions. Hopefully, those are some of the answers you were looking for. But why don't we kind of end things out with some shout-outs? Genna, you want to start off?
Sure. Obviously, shout out to Crank, my one player. I don't really know if we can still call it a team, really. We just call it Axiom. I'm going to call it a team because, it's just one player. But, hey, why not? Thank you so much for trusting us and having faith that we might be able to achieve something. We can at least get you to events and make sure that you and your roommates all have beds, even though they are 3 players from competing teams. It's okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not having Koreans sleeping on floors and that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that is.
And thank you obviously to my husband for supporting me and kind of pushing me to do this, even when I'm passionate about it. But it's a very big plunge to take into saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make a team." That's it's kind of a scary spot, so thank you for supporting me.
That's Jenna's project. It's Jenna's project. Go talk to Genna. That's Jenna's project.
Genna will take the applause, but Genna will also take the criticism and obviously the hecklers and the people who will be there who said, "I told you so," in the event that things go bad.
That's going to happen, Genna.
Of course. You take the good with the bad.
That's right.
So... a big shout out to our graphic designer, Chris, who worked so hard making so many things happen so fast because when originally we had a plan to announce the team, sort of, and then John just sort of kind of put it out there. It's like, yeah, Jenna's starting a team on Reddit. And I'm like, oh, crap. Now I actually have to start a team. Well, great.
The logo looks great, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. There are a lot of people who have a love-hate situation with the logo, but, I'm a fan of it, and,
whatever
whatever.
Logo you start with isn't the logo you'll have a year down the road.
Oh, of course not.
Now, our logo looked something a lot more loopy and weird than it does now.
Complexity.
Unless you're
complexity, that's true.
That's just because Jason plus Jason don't realize that their shit is old and needs a refresh, son.
We had Jason on a couple of weeks ago. Why didn't you tell him that? Jeez.
I should have said something.
Jeez.
Man, it's horrible.
What are those two things, anyways? He explained it to me. Well, we used to be called this, that, and the other, and I was like, but you're not anymore. So what?
All right. Anyway, any more shout-outs?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right, Mark, you're next up.
Well, I'm going to shout out to Genna for coming on the show, for somebody having the balls to start an esports team now. in I would call it the fallout year of 2012 when League of Legends, nobody knows what the hell's happening with Heart of the Swarm and everything else.
Yeah.
Not a great time to start a team, but if anybody could do it, it's definitely her. I was going to give her the runaround and the ringer-all, but she's bulletproof. She's far too sturdy.
Teflon, man. Teflon.
That's great. Far too sturdy for me to be able to possibly, falter in any way. So I wish her nothing but the best, and her husband as well, who I enjoy watching greatly at any time, all times. He's extremely entertaining and very engaging. Of course, our sponsors, Razer, Machinima Versus, Twitch, DB Vision, and we're also going to be working a little bit here with Alienware, so that's going to be very exciting for us.
Nice.
They're going to be providing some facility equipment for our California training facility, so we're really looking forward to getting that underway. And yeah, just everybody on the teams, the players, especially my two players, State and Illusion, who are at the Startail House right now in Korea, laddering it out.
Awesome. All right, John, your turn.
As always, a shout out to all those that tuned in today. It's good to have some new people tuning in today. Thank you, Genna, for coming. Thank your husband for tweeting about it. I'm sure we've got a lot of his fans here.
Yes,
that's
I
good.
pressed his retweet button really hard.
Great. Good. I don't want to know.
I run his social media.
Jeez.
I was going to say, is this like, what are we in the ditch now? Is that what just happened?
No.
Okay.
Thanks to my organization, CSN, for allowing me 2 hours of time to sit and talk with great people like yourselves, and just look for some news about our training house, studio.
Yes, CSN's actually doing it right, guys. They're going to do a training facility and train other people's players. That's a smart idea.
Right. And charge them for it.
Like 3 years
and charge them for it?
Nobody liked my idea.
I'm sure that there's...
part of the thing will be it's exposure for the brand. I'll make sure that there's a bed if we do have Frank come by.
Yeah, our California house has beds in it too, folks. So don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, shout out to everyone with a bed, and that's all I got.
Beds for the win.
Awesome. All right, big thanks to all the viewers for checking it out. Obviously, Genna, huge thanks, and hopefully
and let's give a shout out to this guy here. This is our welcome host. Come on, guys, come back and see this show next week because it's awesome. And Chris here makes it all happen, dude. And he doesn't get paid anything either, and he does it all. He's got a full-time job too, so thank you, Chris.
Does he have a bed? Do you have a bed, Chris?
I do have a bed. I do actually have a bed. Sometimes I sleep on the couch though because doghouse. But no, I'm just kidding. But no.
Too much eSports, right? Too much eSports.
Exactly. Too much eSports, man. Put me in the doghouse. No.
Chris.
No, but
never come back out.
Oh my God! All right, big thanks to Jenna for coming on. I hope all you viewers that watched, don't question, don't question anything from regards to the due diligence that was done here. I mean, I think Jenna covered it all. I think Mark was saying that.
There's a lot that I'd still like to cover, but
hey. That's true. It'd have to be like a 10
time for another show.
Exactly right.
Well, we'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, definitely. Love to have you back on.
I'd really love to have you on in like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year to be able to plot the progress of Axiom as it evolves into this revolutionizing force.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. But big thanks to you, Genna, and of course John and Mark for always co-hosting with me. And I think today's show was great.
I just can't wait for the day when we have to reform our standards because of something that somebody who's actually innovating did. That's going to be a good day.
Wow, yeah, that will be the day. I don't know when that'll be, but
yeah.
But yeah, guys, the VODs will be up later tonight. They'll be on my channel, youtube.com/ChanmanV, and also on Machinima Versus, youtube.com/Machinima Versus. Hopefully that will be pretty soon. But yeah, check it out there. I'll tweet it and all that good stuff. All of our Twitters are there. Hopefully you can see them under all of our names. So follow everybody here on Twitter. And I think that's going to be it for the show. Next week we got Chris Mitchell from Razer. He's going to be on. It's going to be a night show, and I know some folks were asking about the times of the show. So this time slot, the 4 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central Eastern Time, this is the normal slot. But whenever we have folks from the other side of the world, like in Asia or Singapore or Korea, we have to have a night show, because otherwise they'd have to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning. So we do some night shows too whenever that happens. So yeah, next week, Chris Mitchell, Razer. We're talking about sponsorships and all that stuff. But yeah, that's going to be it for Climbing Ladder. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.